We now head to London to our Britain correspondent, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. And I have to ask you if this is a really serious story, a serious problem, because on the surface, it seems as if, yes, there were some unauthorized meetings with the Israeli officials. She has apologized, and now members from the opposition are asking her to resign. Does that mean she has to do it? Does that mean it is going to happen?
Well, at first it looked like Priti Patel might be safe because of the weakness of Theresa May and her government. Remember, she's in a very precarious position, so any changes in the cabinet will only weaken her further. And there's already been one resignation in the last week, Michael Fallon, because of these sexual allegations that are sweeping around Westminster. But now Priti Patel's position looks much weaker and more fragile. She's been summoned back from Africa. She was there on government business, and she's been called back early, meetings cancelled, so that she can be summoned to Theresa May. And that's because since this private holiday came out, in which she just happened to meet 12 different people related to politics in Israel, including the Prime Minister, including Yair Lapid, it's also come out that she was summoned to Theresa May. She owned up to everything that she hadn't previously declared. And since then, further meetings have come out that she had back in London. She met Gilad Erdan, and she also met in New York other Israeli officials. So it's now being said that she still wasn't honest with the Prime Minister following her confession on Monday. And that's something that, of course, will anger the Prime Minister, who's now under a lot of pressure to fire her from that role. We've got to wait and see what happens when she arrives back in London, whether or not this is something Theresa May can apologise even further. And yet, even if she does that and Priti Patel is safe, which seems unlikely, that will put Theresa May in a weak position itself, because it shows that she has no control over her own cabinet.
And Jonathan, please stay with us. I want to also welcome to this conversation our diplomatic correspondent, Eli Ochenberg. Eli, thank you for being with us. And of course, this seems to be more of a British story, a British minister not exactly telling the Prime Minister of meetings she's had. But obviously, Israel is also a side here. How is this thing viewed here in Israel among the top Israeli politicians?
Well, maybe for once Israel is involved in an international scandal, and it is not like there's no blame here on the Israeli side. And indeed, no one was hiding the fact that those meetings indeed took place. We can see tweets now on screen by both Yair Lapid, leader of the centrist Yesh Atid party, with a picture with Priti Patel after their meeting. A similar tweet, and you can see very friendly remarks, similar tweet of Gilad Erdan, Minister for Public Security. So really no one was hiding the fact that those meetings took place. The Director General of the Foreign Ministry was also one of the meetings she had, and of course Prime Minister Netanyahu, as both of you mentioned. We reached out to the British Embassy here in Israel. They are not commenting on the issue, and we have yet to receive a comment from the Israeli Foreign Ministry on the matter. But as mentioned, Israel is indeed a party to this dispute, but it has nothing to do with Israel's policy, etc. A question that I'm not sure I have the answers, nor perhaps Jonathan, is whether if it was a different entity, perhaps less contentious, let's say another country and not Israel, would the reactions be as as emotional as they are today? Again, it's only speculations.
And that's Jonathan, certainly a question that's being asked here in Israel. Had these meetings been carried out with leaders of another country, would that draw the same attention as this one, or is the Israeli meetings, are they more sensitive than meetings with leaders of other countries?
It's a bit of both, and people here are asking the same, friends of Israel. But it can't be said that this is nothing and that another country would not have provoked the same response. She appeared to have 12 different meetings on that trip, all of them except for one accompanied by Lord Stuart Pollack, who has run for decades the Conservative Friends of Israel group. And one of the visits that she made whilst in Israel, it has now since come out, again, something that it's alleged she didn't tell Theresa May on Monday, was to the Golan Heights to see the Israeli field hospital there looking after Syrian refugees. She then came home and did put it to her department, which deals with international aid, that Britain should send aid from British taxpayers to the IDF for those field hospitals in the Golan Heights. Now, remember, there's several complicated issues there. Britain does not recognize Israel's ownership or occupation of the Golan Heights, so it's not done for cabinet ministers to visit that area, and it's also accompanied by any kind of British policy makers or British civil servants. So that's one area in which she broke the code, the cabinet code, and she's said to have broken it in many ways over this, regardless of Israel, and then potentially lied to the Prime Minister. All of these things normally, whichever country was involved, probably would result in a firing from the cabinet. But as I said, because of Theresa May's weak position, we've yet to see exactly what she will do when she meets with Priti Patel later today.
British politics involved in Israeli politics. Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you in London.